For the most part, applying for and requesting a credit limit increase is a complete waste of time for most people in the points and miles game. It limits the amount of points you can earn, the amount of vacations you can take, and it's only really for a small subsection of people in the credit card world. And I know I already ruffled some feathers because there's a bunch of videos out there talking about how to boost your credit limits, my own included. But if you think about it, requesting credit limit increases are only limiting your potential in this game in the first place. So in this video, we're going to be talking about 5 reasons why I think you should never, and I mean never, apply for credit limit increases on all of your said credit cards. Before I go into exactly why it's a complete waste of time, I will give the 2 caveats on 2 types of people on why this actually is beneficial. And that's it. So starting off, number 1, you guys already know credit utilization. And that essentially is the amount of total credit that you're actually given on all your credit cards and the amount of cards that you're actually using. And that spread, that difference is your utilization. So the higher the credit limit, the more you can actually use in that card to keep the percentage as low as possible, thus would be beneficial towards your credit score. We all know this. So for people who only have credit limits of $1,000 to $10,000, even $20,000, this could be very beneficial because in your day-to-day spend is that the amount that's actually on your cards is much higher comparatively to your total credit limit. And for you, I would say, okay, cool, request a credit limit increase. This way you can get that percentage as low as possible. Number 2 is if you have a major purchase coming up of, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000, who really knows? But if you have a card and you need a really large purchase, okay, cool. You might need a high credit limit for that just to be able to make that purchase go through. However, there are times where there are cards like the VentureX business card or the Amex charge cards where you actually can just request a certain amount and see if they can authorize it above your total credit limit that they actually give you. So there's ways around that. So now let's go into the 5 reasons why you shouldn't. So number 1 is the why. Why do you need such high limits? I mean, if you're not that first person that has to fund a large purchase or you already have decent limits, how much higher are you going to go? I mean, are you funding a Tesla Cybertruck Foundation Edition, $120,000 on a credit card? No, you're probably not. So once you're above any of your minimum thresholds for how large of a purchase you would possibly need, like a water heater goes out or an AC goes out, something like that, once you're above that threshold, you don't need it whatsoever. There's literally no reason why you should increase that credit limit. Which brings me to my first point, which is the higher your limits across all issuers, the more likely you're going to be denied by those issuers for new cards in the future. As an example, there is a rule out there floating around that the Chase 50% income rule. Essentially, if you have an income of $50,000, let's say, Chase will only extend to you up to $25,000 across their business and personal cards. Of course, some people have double their income, some people have less than that. That's just a general rule that some people look to. Now, if I'm a person that has, a Chase Sapphire Preferred at, $20,000, and I just got maybe an Ink Unlimited at $5,000, okay, now I'm already at that limit. When I go to apply for another card, if this rule actually is enacted for me, I'm just going to get auto-denied because I don't have enough credit limit for them to extend to me to apply for that new card. Which is just like, okay, now you're hurting your chances of earning a nice welcome offer, hurting your chances of earning good multipliers from that new card, and maybe a new card gets released and you can't capitalize it because your credit limit's so high, they won't extend to you too much credit because you look like too much of a risk. Which is partly why now I've never actually completed the Chase trifecta. I only have 1 Chase personal card, that being the Chase Sapphire Preferred, and now I have 2 Ink business cards. My total limits across all 3 of those cards is only like $13,000. Whereas I know some people who have the Chase Sapphire Preferred, like 3x that limit on 1 card, where I was able to get 3 of them and 3x less the limit. Now, of course, there's ways around this. After being auto-denied, you can call reconsideration lines on some of these banks, and they'll actually allow you to lower some credit limits or move some credit limits around to actually get you approved for that card. But it's not a guarantee, and I'm not about that at all. I'm not about a guarantee denial. I'm about a guarantee chance of approval. So one thing, if you're already overextended and you don't need extra credit limits, I actually recommend just lower the credit limits. Literally, you can call Chase, call American Express, if depending on the cards that you have, call Citi, call Capital One. You could actually call them and have them lower the limits on your cards. This way you never have to run into this problem whatsoever. Another thing I don't see a lot of people talking about is the possibility of financial reviews. Now, this is something that we know this a little bit more, financial reviews from American Express. And the data points out there, of course, this is kind of like an out there rule, but some people have reported that this has happened to them. Essentially, American Express, when you have 1 card that's above 30,000 limit on 1 card, that can possibly trigger a financial review. And for those of you unaware, a financial review is essentially when a bank is unsure of your income and they're getting a little bit like, what's going on with this guy? Why does he have so much credit extended to him? let's verify that he's actually making the money that he says he is. So you're going to have to send them income statements, bank statements, a few other statements, and it's just a hassle and annoying, and who really wants to go through all that? I'd rather not have to do that in my life ever, right? It's like a small scale audit. Again, there's people that have hundreds of thousands and they never got triggered. Some people have less who have got triggered. So this is just something out there that has happened to people and could happen to you. So for me, again, I don't want to have the risk of a financial review across any issuer. I'm just going to lower the limits before that even becomes a possibility, because why even leave it up to chance? Number 3 is hard pulls. I mean, Chase doesn't do it, American Express doesn't do it, but there's a lot of issuers out there that also will require a hard pull for a credit limit increase. So it's like, again, the unnecessary increase, and now you're taking an unnecessary hard pull, hard inquiry on your score, which could, drop your score, and it could even possibly ruin your chances of getting some other credit cards, because maybe those issuers are inquiry sensitive. And if you have too many hard pulls on your account, they just auto deny you for new cards. Number 4 is, again, you're overextending your credit almost irresponsibly for credit you don't necessarily need, money that's way more than you might even have in your bank account. And I know people are crazy. Things happen to people. You have, divorces. You have horrible tragedy strikes. You have no idea, the types of things that people kind of go through on a day-to-day basis. So to be able to even be eligible to take out all those credit limits, I would feel is irresponsible, even if you are the most responsible person on earth. Because look at Caleb Hammer. Every single person on the show has had decent credit limits, and a lot of them request credit limit increases, and they end up using them because they think like, oh, I'm not using my total amount. Now I'm using less than my total amount that's actually owed to me. I'm not at the max anymore, which means I can spend up to there reasonably, right? I'm not going over. I'm just going to my new limit. So again, even if you're the most responsible person in the world, I don't even want to have access to it. My limits are so low, it's not even funny. I don't even want to have access, because I know tragedy strikes and your mind goes haywire, and you don't even want to have the possibility of that happening. Now, everybody watching this video, I think, is a responsible person, and that's not going to happen to you, but I like to put it out there just in case, because I've seen it happen firsthand. Number 5, it's like not even beneficial whatsoever. I mean, think about it. Like, I'm a person that has the Capital One Platinum secured card, $500 limit 5 years ago. 5 years later, even after going through credit limit increases and asking for it, denied every time. I was bucketed, and it's still 5 years later, just a $500 limit. And there's a lot of people out there who are trying to increase their Capital One credit limit only to find out that they're bucketed and they can't break out of that $500, that $1,000 limit. Lo and behold, they're probably never going to get out of that. Whereas all this time and this turmoil of trying to request credit limit increases and run up the balances and do all these types of things, they could have just applied for a new card. You could have just got a Quicksilver, could have got a Capital One Saver 1, could even went for a Venture card, Venture 1, who knows. All these different cards out there, and for that is beneficial because of 2 reasons. One, you're going to get definitely a credit limit increase, because that credit card, if approved, will have a credit limit, right? Even if it's 500, 1,000, 1,500. Okay, that's a credit limit increase then in itself. But then number 2, you get a new card, a new credit line, a new one to age, and all of the multipliers that come on with it. Like, imagine going from a platinum card that has no benefits to a Saver 1 that still has no annual fee, but now you're getting 3% back on groceries and dining and all these different things, just because you decided, let me apply for a new card and not fight with Capital One to try to get a credit limit increase, right? It's like, why are you spinning your wheels? But again, I get all the people that want to fund large purchases, a lot of people who don't want to have a million different credit cards, and I get all the people that just want to have one card with one limit and not have to think about it whatsoever, and have really low limits as it is and just want higher utilization, so this way they can improve their score for the long term. I hear your thoughts. I understand those situations. I just think that there are better ways to go about it. And as always, thank you guys so much for being here, and I appreciate you staying all the way to the end. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate you.